I would travel around to see them and stuff, and like I couldn't get any of them to pay like meaningless amounts of money, $5 a month per user, doing like multiple tens of millions run rate now. We don't do outbound still at all. It's just cross-sell and sales assist. We're a completely inbound business. So let's see. It might go up beyond 100 million now. We're doing pretty well so far this year.
We are the people that will take you to that 100 million.
You can't just trust people.
I hear that James has prepared an in-depth presentation of Posthog with all the bells and whistles. So just time to sit back, relax, and see a live demo from James.
I've got, I've prepared for, if there's one thing I love more than quick calls, it's long presentations, lots of slides, big words, loads of letters in them. So yeah, I'm going to actually use your podcast to pitch our products for a really long time, and then you feel awkward about publishing it or not. I
think we've made it past the second point, Sandra. So if James is still on with us after this one, I think he's here to stay. So that's great.
Yeah, honestly, I actually can't tell if I've like taken a bunch of mushrooms or if I'm on a podcast right now. But so.
Unfortunately, it's going to get more serious than this. So, but let's talk about Posthog. So it's essentially 10 products in one package. Or is it 11 now?
14.
Are we 14? But are they all of them released, or you have some? Yeah,
it's like I think it's about 9 that we consider not in like alpha or beta kind of stage. We have a bunch in beta. We have some that have been in beta for way too long. But yeah, like 9 like production ready, I would say, and then a bunch that are like being used by people.
Yeah.
But probably like free or just lacking some functionality or whatever.
Yeah, that's quite fantastic. So that obviously fuels your gigantic trustworthy footer that makes you a legit company. The more products, the bigger the footer. But you're also serving over 200,000 customers or so, or what's the up-to-date number?
I think it's about 140,000 companies have installed. And then I think it's probably like about 250,000 developers. Like a lot of them are like 2-person businesses and stuff too. And then we have like a bunch of enterprises and stuff as well. But an awful lot of like hobbyists, indie developers, stuff use our tools. Like I think 96% of customers don't pay anything, for example. It's like a lot of people who are pre-product market fit, as well as the ones that go post-product market fit is where we make a lot of revenue.
But last I hear, you have just one full-time employee doing customer support. Is that still accurate?
Well, we had no one doing support until we got to 100,000 users, which means that therefore our engineers were all doing support because we obviously have support questions.
Completely insane.
That worked pretty well. Like because we kind of just wanted directly our engineers to feel the pain of users so that we actually get to the root cause. Because I'm like, well, there's 2 ways of investing here. We can like fix problems, or we can like make people feel better about them but not fix them. And we went for let's just try and actually fix the problems. At about that many users, we're like, okay, now we're just getting like use case based questions and stuff that is now pulling us away from engineering time. And so we hired our first person into support. But like our first person was called Marcus, and I think he just turned 18. It's like his first job. He's really technical. He's like amazing. He basically I basically hired him because in his interview, he was like, he'd built some open source project that went viral on Hacker News. And I was talking to him about it. And then he was stressing over the host. He was hosting it on a server in his house. And I was like, have you heard of Amazon and stuff or whatever? Like there are tools that can make your life easier than having like a box in your.
You don't need to do this.
Yeah, and he's like, the problem is when you're not 18, you don't have a credit card, so you can't use AWS.
Oh, yeah.
So that's why he was. So he literally his solution was like to buy a server and host it in his house because he didn't have a credit card. So we're like, oh, he's gonna be really good.
That just shows that the correct mentality is there to work around the problem and to actually within the constraints figure out how to move forwards. That's like a pretty big plus to me if I was interviewing.
Yeah, we do really well with employees. Like I think a lot of companies boast about like, oh, we have loads of ex-founders working here, which we also do. But like one of the strongest signals that someone will get hired by us is if you have a home server, because it's like an intensely nerdy place, and people who have home servers do well at Posthog. Like to the point where I'm like, I keep meaning to put it on the application form where it's like name, any notes, where's your LinkedIn? Do you have a home server? Send us a photo. And it like fast tracks you to an interview or something. I honestly think would be like the best thing we could do to reduce noise from like automated submissions and stuff in our interview process.
I feel like this is dangerous to share now because
Yeah,
everyone will know this hack. Yeah, they will just get these
If
sorts of
someone's
applications.
dedicated that they've like listened to me sting and they're still here, like then that's also probably a good signal anyway.
So what's the total number of support employees you have now, or are they full time?
I think we probably have I think it's about 6 people now, something like that. We also didn't have anyone doing sales for quite a long. Or we had very few people doing sales. So we had 2 people doing sales. It was just me, and then I basically hired 2 people instead of me. So I think I got us to about probably like 700,000 a year in revenue or something. Then we hired 2 people doing. It's really important. I think I did the first sales myself. Like it would have been. I can totally get why people don't want to do it, but like it was so crucial. Then the first 2 people we hired were both pretty successful. But like at the time we hired them, we're like, okay, can we get to 100 million revenue without adding anyone else to the sales team? And I think it would be possible actually to do that. But once we got past about 10 million run rate or something, we started adding people. And it basically turned out that if we have a salesperson attached to a deal, we still don't do outbound or whatever. Like we're like doing like multiple tens of millions run rate now. But like we don't do outbound still at all. It's just cross-sell and sales assist. We're a completely inbound business. But salespeople really dramatically improve our retention of our customers, basically because they'll tell us if they're having an issue and we can just fix it. Whereas before we're losing out on products. So somewhat weirdly, the primary role in my head of our sales team, it actually improves our retention of our customer base, which really affects your growth over like a couple of years if you start doing the maths for like how the compounding kind of works, especially when you have like lots of cross sell as well, like because people buy loads of products from us over time. Right. So with hindsight, it should have probably actually hired that a little bit sooner. It would have been distracting. There was lots of other stuff going on. We've grown pretty quick anyway. But yeah, we kept that team really small as well. But Posthog felt like it's just basically all engineers for a really long time. Tweaked a bit, but we've tried to like not lose you have to then like wildly overcompensate in terms of like our marketing and branding, where it's like, oh man, are we getting all corporate and serious?
You wrote that you want to reach 100 million in yearly revenue by 2026. Yep. And are you still on track to do that, considering the new hire?
Yeah, it's been weirdly, it has like, I don't know if you're familiar with like TikTok and manifesting, but like we have totally manifested that. It's been like, it's been like bizarrely accurate. I think we put that number up when we're under 100K of revenue or something, and we've managed to stick to it somehow or another. So let's see, it might go up beyond 100 million now. We're doing pretty well so far this year. Depends a bit on like how aggressive we go with like fundraising, hiring and stuff through the rest of the year. But yeah, stuff's going well. But the difference I think is like, I think at the time we're like, oh, if we get to 100 million, we could like go public if we wanted to. And we've just got way more anti going public, is the actual shift from when I wrote that stuff out, for a bunch of other reasons, sort of thing. But yeah, the revenue one, we're like, oh, we should have put a big number and seen what happened.
I love that you're so confident, because one of the really funny things that I found while digging a bit deeper into Posthog is that you have an engineer that essentially accidentally made one of your most liked features, session replay, right? It was kind of shut down, and then you kind of just built it anyway, and it worked out greatly. But you sound so confident now. It almost seems like you have a plan this time, and you're not gonna just do it by chance. But do you consider yourself a lucky guy? Is there some luck involved in this plan of yours to reach 100 million?
Yes, I do. But I think you can make yourself luckier, at least. Like there's like, I think some ideas increase your luck surface area a little bit. I think one of the things that's occurred to me more this year really is so one of the things one of our investors told us the person who was on our board, this guy called Ali Ragani. So Ali was like, oh, when you get bigger, you can kind of see around corners. And I was like, what does that mean? So I can see the future at some point, right? Great, sounds good. But kind of what's happened is our strategy as a company has really changed dramatically. Like it used to be like, okay, we're going to do open source, self-hosted product analytics. Hobbyists will use it because it'll be popular on Hacker News. And then a bunch of big enterprises that don't want any data to leave their infra will buy it and they'll pay for the party. That was great. Like it kind of worked. Like we got a bunch of revenue, got a bunch of customers, got a bunch of traction on the open source project. But in the process of doing that, and like by just doing stuff, we're like, oh, there's like a bigger party here or a better party that we want to go into instead, which is what was unveiled. So Carl, one of our engineers, shipped the second product. And around the same time, like a whole bunch of users were self-hosting for we're like, why are you I don't understand why you're using Posthog. Like we have competitors who at the time had better products that are more reliable because they're in their clouds. So you don't have to bother with hosting it. They're also free if you're using their free tier. If they have, I think at the time, you probably still could, whatever. It would have just been better to like use our competitors' products. Like, why are you using us? And okay, we'll create a cloud product so that we can host this for you because like we're just debugging your Kubernetes for no reason, basically. And we'll make it free at the bottom end so that like, because if you're a hobbyist kind of user and you have no budget, there's no point us trying to make money off you anyway. And we want you to like say nice stuff about us on the internet if you like our products. So we'd like to have you rather than not have you. And so we just shipped a cloud product with a big free tier, and then it also kind of went multi-product, and it just grew so much better. But like the point is kind of by doing something on the internet and shipping a product that got like a bunch of users, we started learning from the user group, and then we changed our strategy to be like, okay, actually cloud makes way more sense. Even though at the time we thought we'd never be able to do cloud because we thought there's so much competition. We're screwed. Like there's like 5 alternatives at least. A bunch of them are doing like a couple 100 million run rate. And we're like, no, it turns out we can compete. Like we've just seen it happen. And then we started getting more aggressive on multi-products later. We're like, oh, hang on a minute. Like the correct thing is not like a cloud product analytics product. It is to build, like now it's at the point where it's like we want to build every single piece of software that a software team needs, starting with all the stuff that has to do with customer data. And so we've just got like way more aggressive over time with strategy. But it's based on like, it's like we asked users, why did you show up? And they're like all the tools in one, low pricing, developer brand, and technical people to interact with. And so we've just done those 4 things really hard. So the strategy is sort of like, I haven't like descend as much as like I would love to paint a picture of like I descended from the hillside and told everyone this is what's going to happen in the future. It'd be much more like we've done a bunch of stuff. We've just labeled what's working, and then done more of the stuff that's working and less the stuff that's not working. And then we take bets. Like so there's a level of chaos.
It's simple, really. Yeah.
Yeah. There is like a level of chaos you need to learn things. Like if we did something super boring, and like not noteworthy or interesting or whatever, like had we started with like just a cloud product, we probably wouldn't have got anyone, like no one would have cared probably. So we kind of had to build something a bit weird to get some interest. And then the other thing we're still learning is the more ambitious we are, kind of gets easier because customers more interested, employees are more interested in building that stuff, more interesting. It's easier to raise money if we want to raise money.
I love that.
Yeah, just like a bit of chaos and label what's working and then do strategy from based on what's working has worked well for us, probably because we're not like good enough visionaries compared to like Steve Jobs or someone like that.
But you don't have to be. That's essentially what you proved with Posthog. That you don't, boring products or at the surface anyway are perfectly fine. It doesn't have to change the world on day one. I think you will eventually do that.
Yeah, I think but I think it's true. Even if it depends what you're trying to do. Like even if you're not building, like we're building like a VC-backed company, we have to get like super, super huge, and that's what aligns you with your investors' interest, which is probably a good idea. But like if I were bootstrapping something, I also would be like still way more pro, like cool, like go build like a Gmail competitor or something. Like do something that like there will be some people that will buy from you, even for brand reasons, like because they want like you individually to win. Like if you do a good job of the brand and marketing side. But it demonstrates the product's going to be useful because Gmail is useful. Like email certainly has product market fit, and then it's like, okay, just do a twist on it rather than completely like coming up with the concept in the first place is where you need like a magical sorcerer to come up with it or something. But like doing a twist on something, I think is much more accessible to most people.
But you mentioned marketing. You have a very unique approach to social media.
Nobody will remember your salary, how busy you were, how many hours you worked. People will remember if you hopped on a quick call, when you hopped on a quick call, how many quick calls you hopped on, how you made them feel when you hopped on a quick call. This is probably one of my favorite tweets ever written, I have to say.
How did this play? Like, does this like unique approach to social media plays like a big role in marketing? Posthog, or is just this having fun online?
Yeah, I can't tell. I don't know if this is backwards fitting it. It's like I need to be able to justify it doing this. It is entertaining. So I'm like, I don't know if I do this because it's entertaining and I justify it as brand, or if it's the other way around. The kind of the thought process behind it, at least, was for a bit I started just writing tweets that I thought were helpful. So I would just write. And I'm like, what's helpful? I'll just talk about what we're learning as we build the company. And they work to a reasonable degree. Like, you'd maybe get like 100 likes. Probably at the time it would be much smaller, like 30 likes or 40 likes on something. Like, hey, well, like a few people have read it. That's cool. But there are quite a lot of work to put together. And as we got bigger, I was like, I'm struggling for like the time to write these. And I was like, actually, I think if I just do a combo where I'm like, I think I could probably grow awareness of those tweets much quicker if I actually just like shit post on the internet and put some helpful tweets in at the same time. And you can basically tell from my timeline how busy I'm working, how busy I am at work, because when I'm busier, it's all shit posting. And when I'm less busy, there's helpful content appearing. I feel like it is important in some way, shape or form. Like, I think that I kind of just know from, it's much more vibe. We've actually joked internally about vibe-based marketing. We're like, could we just run marketing without any numbers behind it whatsoever forever? Because basically
there is a marketing team in Posthog.
There is, yeah.
There is.
And we're like, could we? Because like, if something you can measure, it's going to get competitive and saturated. So the stuff that's going to work, stuff you can't really measure properly, like billboards. And we're like, oh, can we like kind of just do stuff we think is entertaining? And that's basically the only thing we think about marketing. Like, is this funny? Do we like this? Is it cool? We'll do it. And if it's not, we won't. And that's like a very simplistic decision making around stuff.
They even had a billboard that was it was a joke on. I can't remember it.
Yeah, the billboards were the same thing. Like, we had like were you injured by high? We cut pricing very dramatically last year. I hope we'll do more of it. And so we just did like were you injured by high SaaS prices? You may be entitled to Posthog. And then I'm in a suit dressed as a lawyer, and my face is on these billboards everywhere in San Francisco. And then we also did like product screenshots with my face like creepily over the top of them. Because we just thought it was like a bit odd. But yeah, it's quite strange. And then I went to San Francisco on a trip unrelated to this marketing campaign, like as it was still kind of a bit live, and it was pretty weird seeing my face all over town and on the side of buses and stuff. But yeah, I think that kind of marketing has been really effective for us. Basically, I think it's because we like the products we build have really big competitors who are very serious and very enterprise focused. And so it's kind of just about like standing out from, I think basically if you're going to go into a market where there's like huge competitors that are enterprise focused and you're happy to be the one that's like PLG and like startups and like getting into enterprises from the bottom, standing out, I think is kind of what marketing you have to do. And so you're going to have like, I think the best way to stand out is just be yourselves like very intensively.
Oh yeah, and Posthog is doing that very well. Like, it's such a recognizable branding you have.
There's like loads of nuance there as well. For example, just like in all the little details as well, like the way the website's designed, like we have like Posthog beige is the running joke for our like light mode. Like, it's beige, not white, for example. Or like everyone has like a Vercel kind of website or like a linear type website, and we're like, oh, this looks cool, obviously, because they're really beautifully designed. But like a year later, you're like, okay, there's like
they all look the same.
Thousands of .ai black websites with like the boxes laid out in that particular way and stuff. So yeah, it's kind of just in line with that, really. But yeah, I would call it like mission-oriented marketing or like something. We're starting to do some more measurable stuff now. We're a bit bigger still, but the like unmeasurable stuff is also going up. Like, we have some very weird stuff, like the weirdness we've increased quite dramatically over time. We've had a puppet. We're trying to work on video stuff. This in like next month, we have like a full-time video person joining us because we view this as an extension of our content marketing has worked quite well for us. And we're like, okay, how can we go further with something that's working and crank it up further? And there are certain styles of content that work, and we're like, okay, can we do these in a video form? And like, how would this look and feel? And so we hired someone to like look after this for us properly. So we have like, back in the day, this would have been me screwing around, probably doing a terrible job. And we're like, can we get someone who's just really good? And like, we've had like a puppet professionally made of a hedgehog. It's made by like this theater puppet designer guy. And it's got like all these different outfits and like some long arms and some short arms. And like, anyway, yeah, so as marketing's budget's going up, it's getting a lot stranger. But like, none of this stuff costs very much.
I hope you have that with you.
I actually don't, because it's far too valuable for me to be given it by anyone internally. We have two of them in existence. It's very funny. It's like, this is the kind of place where I end up spending my time. Is like, I'm literally with Lottie, who's the main person who looks after this puppet project. And it's like, should his mouth be like curvy and sad looking all the time? And like, should he have eyebrows? Like, these are the big high level executive decisions that I'm making day in, day out. And this has been people.
Those are your board meetings. What is the length of the
we have like a secret Slack channel. It's the puppet committee, which is people trying to like design this puppet together and stuff. We're just like secret for some reason or other. I don't know why. But anyway, yeah, I hope it pays off.
But how many people you have in marketing?
Probably like maybe 6 or 7, something like that.
Okay, that's a big team, yeah.
The content side is quite intense. Like we have marketing does like our docs too, which is a bit unusual, but we write lots of tutorials and stuff. And as we're building more products, there's like just a ton of stuff to write about. And we do some SEO based bits and pieces as well. Like it's not kind of our core, it's more of a hygiene factor. Like we'll keep an eye on like Posthog compared to XYZ competitor. We'll try and have reasonable coverage for that. It'll be low traffic, but high conversion. And what sort of seems to happen is as like the brand stuff works, the SEO stuff just kind of seems to rank better off the back of like the domain having more authority or something. So yeah, the content side's quite intense. We have like a newsletter that's we've been pushing the newsletter really hard. It's been really interesting growing a newsletter from scratch. But that's going quite well. Like we're at about 55,000 subscribers or something, but we haven't like opted in the cheat mode would be like we just should opt in our existing user base, but we haven't done that. Like we've just built it properly without spamming our users. But that's quite
more elegant.
Yeah, we start off with it like once every like 2 or 3 months, and I was writing it, and then like, okay, let's try and do this monthly. Now we're trying to do it like weekly, and trying to keep the quality up. So like we have to add more people to keep the quality to the extent that we're proud of it. So that's kind of where a lot of the bandwidth in marketing goes. And then I think over this year it'll probably be a bit more on the video sides of quite creative work, but it's only gonna be like a couple of us focusing on it. Maybe once we have something that's working, we'll scale it up a little bit more. But all these things started off tiny. Like the newsletter was like, I think one person was like, we should do a newsletter. Here's why I think this is awesome. It's going to make no difference to the business at all for like several years, and eventually it'll be awesome and like something no one can replicate. But we have to just bear with it for like 5 years. And we're like, I can actually see that. Like, I don't know if you've seen like Lenny's newsletter for product managers. Mm-hmm. It's like wild how big it is, like 1 million subscribers and paid, I think, as well. And we're like, well, if Lenny can do that for product managers, we should try and do the same for engineers. Like it must theoretically be possible. And like, can we get the newsletter to be bigger than the product number of users we have in product, so that it eventually ends up as a funnel? And like it's in line with our mission. Like we equip every developer to build successful products. So it's like, can we help engineers do stuff that's not code? Like talk about how you do sales as a developer, for example, that kind of thing.
Yeah, SEO as well. I think one of the previous newsletters was about how to improve your SEO. So I thought that's pretty cool.
Yeah, and like as we write stuff, it can be really fun to like give. I think quite often we give like actual data on things we've learned, or like we've talked before about like this is where we spend money in marketing and why and whatever. So yeah, we're trying to teach people what we're learning as best we can, because that's the only stuff we're credible in. Because I remember looking at like Hacker News in the early days. Like Hacker News is this forum, right, which is really popular with developers. And it looks intimidating to get on the front page. Like the content there is like very technical or very well written. And I was like, wow, these people are like, it's often like experts writing about something they're an expert in. Like it'll be like someone who builds submarines talking about like how the wiring works in a submarine or something. And you're like, I have no expertise like this. I barely know what day of the week it is. And I was like, well, I do know a lot about Posthog. So if I just write about Posthog, I can write credibly. And this is my free ticket. So everyone's an expert in themselves. So if you write about yourself in some way, shape, or form that's interesting for other people, you can do well. So we did Y Combinator, and I was like, cool, I'll just write about what doing Y Combinator is like, because no one writes about it during the batch. And now it's quite common to see that. But like the first piece I wrote went viral. We got like an audience. It like humanized us quite a lot, because it was like, hey, here's Tim and me climbing up this hill.
It's a very raw build in public approach, actually.
Yeah.
If you'd like, yeah.
And that's also one of the other things in marketing we try to do, especially as we get bigger. I think it's getting more important to realize like there are human beings that build our stuff. Like when people are like happy about it or unhappy, like it does affect us individually online. Like we're looking at all of it. It's always funny when people whine about it. I'm like, man, this like hurts my feelings when you see people being negative, because like we'll see it online. Like I look at all of it. So yeah, I'm really conscious as we get bigger. I'm like, I would hate to be big enough. I feel like we're going to get big enough to hate at some point. And so it's like, okay, we just want to make clear, like the teams that build our individual products, it's like 2 or 3 people, it'd be like Paul, Mary and Joe or whatever. So the better we can gather across, and like there are people who'll give you support on these products and stuff as well. So just trying to do that to avoid being seen as like Google or someone that's just like a big corporate without where computer says no. Yeah.
Yeah, but a bunch of people are actually crazy about Posthog. I don't think I have ever stumbled on like people hating the product.
Oh, I think just our common friend Lewis, I think, made a post saying that it's bad.
We get a bit, I would say it's like very positive overall, but like as we got a bit bigger, I think one thing that happens online is people can complain about it for clout online, because it's like if you complain about something that's popular,
Yes.
you'll get a reaction online.
I've
so
seen a lot of
I
definitely think that happens at more scale, which is fine. Like I've actually seen it sometimes where it's a customer who is happy with this and stuff, and then they're complaining about some social media because it gets engagement, and you're like, oh, this is so annoying. But yeah, it's not too bad. It's just like it happens occasionally. Other times it's other stuff like, it's like a support problem or something that we've missed or something's gone wrong. But yeah, most of it's really positive. You start like drowning out the positive stuff after a while because there's so much of it. So then you kind of just try and fix the problems that you spot. But we have a Slack channel that tracks this stuff, which is really helpful to gauge like how's stuff going in public opinion.
We could test that. We could share something online and see how quickly someone will react.
Yeah, we try to be fairly chill. If it's like positive or whatever, or
And then
sounds like
James gets notification and he's the one writing it.
it's honestly basically like I think what happens is that I think there's a real art to this as well. Like because a lot of people also talk about like comparing us to other products. And we're like, man, we also don't want to like weigh in on all of this. Like it feels we're not neutral, and so yeah, I think there's like a level of taste in how you handle community mentions and stuff as well. Like we'll just or like Hacking Users actually like this. Like if someone reposts, like we've been on there a couple of times recently, and like we won't. If people are asking us questions, we'll answer them, but like we'll let people talk to each other and let them form their own opinions on stuff.
Yeah.
And it actually helps the discussion, I think. Like, and even from a marketing perspective, I think it helps create more engagement because you're not shutting down the conversation by just trying to answer everything yourselves. But yeah, the community side's like your investors might want, for example. So trying to like align this stuff is very challenging. Like cutting pricing, for example, like that's obviously going to be super popular on the internet. But like, what does it do to our finance or whatever? You're like, well, does the community reaction like outweigh the like lower order values that we'll receive because of this and stuff? So yeah, it's kind of it's one of the parts that makes it and then get fun when you actually have to care about this stuff. You're sort of holding yourselves to a higher bar a little bit. It's like, oh yeah, if we do something stupid because we have lots of users, we're definitely going to get people on the internet talking about it. So you have to think stuff through a bit better, basically.
But James, we have a lot of people that are like indie hackers or just creating their own products and all of this stuff. I wanted to know, like, when you guys were starting out, what were your main channels of getting to users?
Yeah, it's kind of like how we approached it, and then there's maybe how I'd approach it now. So back in the day, it was basically my co-founder would build stuff, and I would try and validate as he was building. I would try and validate if it was going to work or not, which I think was a good way. I think that was a good way of approaching it. So first approach was like have a co-founder. For me, was really important. Like the business now is quite big, and like we're hiring like tons and tons of people. Like this year we're hiring like last especially 110 at the moment, but it might got more like extra people this year kind of thing. So we're doing like tons and tons of hiring. There's like loads of stuff happening in parallel. And I think it would have been really hard to. I just don't think we could have grown at this rate without two of us just talking stuff through, especially when you want to take bets on stuff where it's like, oh, let's go multi-product, let's like focus on cloud, like blah blah blah. Like these bigger moves are kind of being able to talk it through with someone who's directly your peer can be really helpful. And I think I would have been more risk adverse if I was building it for myself. I would have been afraid of some of the bigger, like we cut pricing by like up to 90% for our two biggest products by revenue. When two of you are on board, you're like, okay, cool. I think this is a mistake. Like we've screwed it up together. And I think it's somewhat less likely. So that went well. I think the second was, that's probably the most important decision I think we took. I think the second was, I'm not a big believer that you can validate stuff up front very well. I think basically everyone thinks you can like validate stuff up front really well, and no one believes that you can build things as quickly as you actually can build things. I think those are like the two things that are. And so I'm like, actually no, like you can basically, especially with all the new tools coming out, it's like we would generally build the first version of something in like a week or two, and I would just be talking to users continuously whilst my co-founder focused on building. And then it's quick. I'm like, okay, talking to users, trying to roughly shape what the feature should be, then trying to get it into their hands, and then watching what happens with these users to validate if we're correct or not. And we had to go through like 6 cycles of doing this until we actually landed something that hit product market fit, which took us like 6 months kind of thing. So I was like messaging, I just had like a hierarchy. I was like, okay, here are all the relationships that I have as a person from like family through to like friends, co-workers, and I was like, okay, out of these people, who's relevant, blah, 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 blah. I'll start with the closest. And then eventually you start running out of people and you're like, okay, cool. Now I need to like, just go out on social media and start messaging people and stuff. And so, yeah, it was a lot of like LinkedIn messaging. It wasn't very spammy. Like, I think it's not something you should really try and automate. It's like, we're not optimizing for volume. I'm optimizing for learning. And so I'm not trying to get like 1,000 people signed up. I'm literally trying to get like 2 people to.
And at that stage, you were already in YC, or you applied later?
This was before
This
YC.
was before,
Yeah.
okay.
I think by the time we applied, we had one product that had got like, through this kind of method, we had one product that got to about 600 users and maybe like $300 a month in revenue or something. And we got into YC with that idea. And what happened was, we're like, okay, we hadn't really focused on trying to make money. And they're like, you should push to try and see if you can sell this product and actually make some revenue from it. And I pushed really hard on that with Tim, my co-founder. So he kept building, looking after our users. And as much as possible, I went in person to meet our customers, because I was like, I'm going to try as hard as possible. So like, I would travel around to see them and stuff. And like, I couldn't get any of them to pay like they would pay like meaningless amounts of money to us, like, you know, $5 a month per user and stuff. And like, they would only have like 6 users. And it was just like, I just can't see how this is going. I'm trying so hard to sell to them relative to how little money I'm making from this thing. Like, I don't think this is going to work. And then my co-founder was like, I agree. The idea we were working on, we sort of started feeling like we're the wrong people for what we're working, this idea that helps you solve technical debt. And neither of us has run like a big engineering team before. And we're both like very scrappy kind of people. We're not kind of perfectionists or like real engineering, like diehard types. And so we were like, okay, we can't see a way to solve this problem. This just doesn't feel like it's the right thing to be working on. So we thought about a couple of other ideas, shipped Posthog, and then that kind of blew up basically. I think the way I probably would approach it now, I think there's a couple of things. I think if you're like persistently doing this, I still think that like, I think the social side will make it way easier. Like, having done a bunch of like stuff on social and having like a little bit of following, I'm like pretty sure now if I was starting something from scratch, like I would just have a bit of an audience to start with, even if it's not big. You don't need many people. You like, I think if you have like, if you can get like a couple of thousand followers, I think you probably could get something off the ground with a few users to give you the learning you might need. So I think that would be one path. And what we did work. Like, I would repeat that exercise too if you don't have that. Like, I'm lucky to have like, I have a small size following online, I would say, to medium, and like that is probably enough. I don't think you need tons early on to validate the idea. How you scale it is then a different challenge.
Yeah.
Like, we're not really scaling through me talking on social media. Like, we're primarily scaling through users recommending our products to each other.
Yeah, but that's a great way. Like, if you get or reach that point where users are actually recommending your product, then it's like you hit something definitely. But then you build a product for us to make this data-driven decision. Did you ever find yourself kind of going away from these data and kind of more following your gut feeling?
Yeah, I think in the early days it is just feel for like, it's a human thing. And like, out of all that, we have like 14 products, whatever. Like, the only one I would like super early on, when you have like 4 users of your thing, like I would use session replay is something like that I would use. Like, it's just like, you should just watch everything that's going on. Basically, like, that will give you like tons of things that are broken. Like, you learn way more from that than numbers. Numbers get important, but in the very earliest days, like, you know, like YC, for example, the batch, we quite often talk about like, hey, here's how to think about analytics. And we're like, basically don't think about it too much. Like, you should track some basic stuff, like how many daily active users do I have? You should know how many users you have. But like, don't go nuts over like conversion rate optimization when you have like precisely 0 revenue and no one's using your thing and no one cares. Like, your goal is like, does everyone care about this thing? So I would use session replay primarily to like debug issues or confusion that people have in your product early on. And that's basically all I would focus on. All the other stuff is useful, but it's kind of once you've already got a level of product market fit already. Like, I would basically just use like analytics for high level numbers and keep it super basic, like a few key metrics. And I would use replay quite intensively, and like probably errors as well, for just making sure that it might turn out that like your thing's just broken and that's why no one's talking about it, because loads of stuff will be broken early on. But yeah, I think it's the optimal way is very basic usage of our products early on is much better than someone being like a total fanatic, because you're just optimizing for the wrong stuff at that point.
This is close to my heart. I'm pretty bad in that. But then like, you're focusing mostly on engineers, and I'm someone who is working in marketing and using heavily Posthog. Have you ever thought about like expanding from there, like going also to other personas?
Yeah, I think, and we might be making a huge mistake with this. Like, the adoption does come from engineering almost everywhere. And basically the insight we've had is like, engineers exist before everyone else in a startup usually. And so it's like, the first 2 or 3 people are usually technical. And thus we get like we're just there because of the first 2 or 3 people, and then the first marketing person turns up and it's like, oh, they're on Posthog or whatever. Sometimes that first marketing person will move somewhere else and they'll be a fan, and then they'll just pick us up anyway. We do intend on building out the rest of the marketing stack of tools. I think like the way we kind of think of it is like, what's the first tool if marketing's like one of the key disciplines in a company, like marketing, product, sales, engineering, whatever else. I'm like, okay, the first product in marketing that gets adopted is probably web analytics, usually like GA, like we have a web analytics product and so on, like Plausible, there's a bunch of others. I think that will get adopted through engineering, but then like the second, third, fourth products are probably going to be the marketing person going for them. Like we're getting asked a lot for like attribution, for example, like add pixel type stuff, like a Google Tag Manager alternative. So we do want to build out the rest of that toolkit. It might be really stupid that we haven't done this already, because like word on the street is that marketing people will spend a lot of money on tools because they spend so much.
I just wanted to say we are the people that will take you to that 100 million.
So yeah, I think like maybe we should have gone there a little bit sooner. But again, usually what happens is like, well, stuff's gone so well anyway, it's been kind of fine. With like marketing users, for example, I think we've probably got some bias towards not doing it because of the fact we have lots of engineers using us. Whereas like, yeah, it might be much better to like entirely focus on the marketing stack and blah, 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 blah. So yeah, we are building a lot more marketing tools. It's the same with like sales. Like we're building a CRM at the moment, or about to start one. Again, like it sounds nuts, but it's like, okay, we're not actually building the whole of Salesforce. We're building like, okay, you're an engineer trying to do your first 6 deals. You're probably going to use Apple Notes or a spreadsheet. Can we just make that Posthog instead? Because we've got all your user data and stuff in there already. Like it'd be a bit better connected up. And the same with like your customer support, which like Zendesk is kind of the standard still for this. And like everyone has been bought by private equity and isn't really shipping anything new, and it's a bit clunky, a bit salesy to buy. And we're like, oh, well, we've got errors. We've got the video recordings of users. Like, we should do this too. But it can feel quite scary. I think it's felt scary to us historically to build these sorts of tools because it feels like it's like not our knitting or whatever. But in reality, it's like, no, like engineers kind of do actually do sales, marketing support early on. Then the first person will probably end up using them and so on. So yeah, I think maybe we've been a little bit too risk averse with doing this, but we've just had an awful lot on our plate in general. But yeah, like I would totally anticipate from us building more of the marketing stack, more of the sales stack, more of the support stack of tools. To over through the rest of this year.
I mean, there is definitely this term called product marketers.
Yeah,
like that kind of hits, I guess, or aligns with Posthog as well.
Yeah, I guess I guess the other problem I have is like I'm a little bit ignorant about this world, as in like product marketing as a concept to me was new with Posthog. Like I've been trying to learn this stuff, so and I have like a blind spot. I know what the engineering products are that everyone uses, but I am much more of a blind spot around the marketing state of the art products these days. Like last time I did a lot of marketing was like 10 years ago, and we haven't used many third party or really any third party products here either because we've been so kind of brand oriented that we're just not clued up. So yeah, it just sort of the products to a certain extent manifest what we're confident about.
Well, I just wanted to let you know that we exist, marketers in this world exist.
We have feelings.
And we have feelings as well.
And budget.
And budget.
Why not budget?
Great. I'm listening. Yeah, no, I think we should definitely do that. I would love to, I would love to. Well, I could turn this to product interview if you like, but it's probably not the right way around to do a podcast. But do tell me which product you think we should build in marketing, because I'd be super keen to hear from them.
Yeah.
But CRM, that's quite inspiring. It's cool that you make it. I think our sponsor Sentry could take some inspiration from Posthog actually and try to build more products. I think. Do you know about Sentry? Obviously, to some extent. Do you use it?
I'm actually friends with David Kramer from Sentry, so he was incredibly helpful to us very early on. Like when we're thinking about doing open source product analytics, he's one of the we're like, oh, let's try and speak to the best people in the world at this stuff, and just message him on LinkedIn. And he's like, yeah, sure, I'll talk to you. And so yeah, he was one of our he wound up becoming one of our angel investors really early on too. But he was really, really nice when we were trying to understand
small
how we do this
world,
stuff.
Small world.
Yeah.
But I think they should try out more things. They should embrace this chaos that you've mentioned. So our proposition is that they should make a new product that is kind of retrofit into their dashboard. It should be called Declinotron 4000. And basically the way it works is every time an employee writes that someone should hop on a quick call, that it kind of propagates through their dashboard and uses their Slack integration and kind of
pages people in the middle of the night and stuff.
Exactly, pages your manager in the middle of the night, and triggers the whole meeting. So we actually made a small slide deck for it too. So you might have recognized this design. So it works with existing dashboards, has Slack integration and instant alerts. It maybe will be endorsed by James. Do you like this design? Do you
Maybe.
probably recognize it? Maybe. It does. I think it's all factual in here, and three people are looking at this now. That's also a fact. It is. But stop having bugs. Stop making users angry, and get yourself some Sentry in your application. And this is definitely not the Sentry branding anymore. I think I went a bit off. But yeah, that was a small detour. I want to ask you about something very interesting. You used to hire technical founders. Is that correct? You still do?
Yes. Yeah, we still do. Yeah, we've learned quite a lot about doing this too. It has pros and cons for sure.
Isn't that expensive? Pitch this to me. Convince me to join Posthog as a technical founder.
Technical founder. Yeah. So a lot of technical founders are in a spot where they're really good at engineering, but they've just struggled to get their business to be successful, basically. And so they kind of are like, oh, I've been building all this stuff, but like no one's using it. It's like, do you want people to use your stuff whilst also having autonomy and choosing what to build? Like, come join us. And like, yes, you don't own the entire company or whatever, but like you own, like, if this is a company and it's a pie, like the pie is growing so quickly, like the slice you've got will just go up in value a lot anyway, and eventually it'll be irrational for you to be doing your own thing, even from a financial perspective. So a lot of it's kind of like, I'm a technical co-founder. I really want people to use my stuff. I like building things and working with users. What I don't enjoy is like existential crises over like, oh, this isn't working at all. No one cares. And so with Posthog, what we're finding, because we have this like baked-in audience that just want to try new products that we're shipping, we'll just get a bunch of extra. You'll just get users on anything we work on now. So you can like iterate much more quickly. So I kind of think if you're super, super commercial as a co-founder, like it's not going to be the right fit. Like, but if you're kind of like the one who just kind of is motivated by building stuff and having a lot of freedom. So like our engineers at Posthog decide what to build. We don't have, product managers don't determine the roadmap. Engineers entirely responsible for picking and choosing what they work on, even at like an individual kind of level. And so you still get like all this freedom. So it feels like lots of little startups, basically.
So it's a pretty solid pitch. I think it might be a hedge in today's AI development world, where just being technical, just being able to write code is perhaps not enough to have job security. So all of a sudden you need to stand out somehow. And how do you do it? Well, with business knowledge, with this agency to start understanding how your company makes money and try to do something, have an initiative to do something to change that yourself while being technical at the same time.
Yeah, we're having this debate yesterday. We're debating this yesterday. We're talking about like what should we build for the next quarter as a business, or what do we focus on, or what are our risks and bits and pieces. We do this like once a quarter. We step out. All the teams take a moment to go, okay, we'll spend an hour and a half or a couple of hours. And the debate we were having was like with AI coding tools, for example, like who wins? Is it like the other tools also get automated and like, okay, that you still have you build software, like if you're building a software company, you still actually need an engineer to understand how it works. But the engineer is going to be expected to go further with everything else. Or is it that like the product manager wins or the sales co-founder wins because now like engineering doesn't matter anymore? It is kind of hard for me to imagine that like our own software, for example, is like nightmarishly complicated. Like there's so much infrastructure, so much surface because it's a real business. And it's like, I struggle. It'll be like totally terrifying to imagine that we'd have like no one who actually understands how it works. Like as in, and that might be because I'm like a dinosaur or something, but I'm like, it's hard to see a world where like having zero technical expertise would be, it'll be possible to run our business as well as if we had some technical expertise.
Isn't that a blessing and a curse? Because the way I envision Posthog from afar anyway is you have these small teams, 3 engineers, very skilled, and they could essentially build anything.
Yeah.
Doesn't this create silos where you end up building the same thing but as part of different products, and at some point you realize, oh, we could have talked with these guys and saved some time building the whole infrastructure for it or whatever it is. Yeah,
for sure. Yeah, you end up with some with an autonomous environment with small teams that work in silos, like you do have the risk of duplicate work happening sometimes. It doesn't happen anywhere near as often. The upside of being able to build stuff without committees and approval or like having to convince anyone is so outweighs the downside so heavily that of like sometimes doing something similar to someone else. I would say like 49 times out of 50, you're better off just not caring. I think that we still do a couple of bits and pieces. Like once we do like a sprint planning process where like at least like at this stage of our life in the sprint planning, it's likely that the exec team will know what all the stuff is that's being worked on. So if someone suddenly says like I'm going to build like an AI chat interface for something, we'll know that someone else is already doing that. So we'll just be able to steer them internally to the right spot.
So it's not like you're locked away and you are not allowed to actually communicate with anyone else. To the untrained eye, if you just look from afar, you could think, oh, this is a madhouse. Everyone's doing whatever they want. They're making HogQL. They're making even programming languages, right? I heard that people work in the night and then come up next morning. Here's a new product. Just like what is? How does this fit together? But now you shed some light on it, and I was wondering what's the secret. It also kind of sounds like the secret is you, that you kind of. You're the one going around and sort of talking to everybody, or how does it work?
Yeah, it's really definitely not me. The secret is like not for me. I'm definitely the stupidest. I think it's like
you could have taken the compliment, but
no, it's not me though. It's just incorrect. I think the secret is that you can trust developers to make good decisions at an individual level. Like I think people baby developers in lots of companies, and they assume that they're like because you can write code, you can't make rational decisions about what to work on. And I'm like, no, I just don't think that's true. Like human beings are actually pretty, especially if you hire very smart human beings, like they can make good and often better decisions than you can. Like the case of Carl, who built our second product, it was a genius move that I would never pull off because I'm too conservative and backward looking or whatever. So it's a real fine art, but having like a little bit of chaos in there is, I think, healthy. I was reading a book on how come it's on like how did empires rise and fall in world history. And it's talking about like Europe in the 15th century. And the concept is like, okay, how come these tiny little countries in Europe dominated the entire world, even though they're so small? And the argument being put forward is basically that Europe has a lot of small, tiny opposing countries who are all fighting each other, which is creating the incentive for innovation comes from the chaos and the speed of things and whatever. Thus, someone invents like gunpowder, for example, and now their army can like decimate everyone else. So it sort of feels a little bit like that, where you actually can trust people. I think most people are really defensive and like overly risk averse by nature. My grand theory on this is like, okay, my grand theory, which is probably totally wrong, is in the wild, you're like mitigating downside risk most of the time. Like you're not trying to like build a reusable rocket or something. If you're a cave person, you're like, I just want to like get food. If it gets like dark and scary, I should probably go back to my cave for another day or whatever. Like I'm not going to be out all night doing crazy stuff because I'll get eaten. Or like the way your immune system works, it like way overreacts to anything it considers bad, which is why people are like allergic to stuff, for example. So I just think it's like in our nature to be more risk averse than is rational most of the time. And I think people apply this to management where they kind of copy stuff that works for like Unilever or whoever that has to manage like a ton of employees, and then they bring these practices into startups, or like the way OKRs work is from Google, who are trying not to screw up something that's amazing that they have as a business. So yeah, I think people's like default level of risk taking is like slightly irrational from a business perspective, but like you can't just trust people. Like it'll be fine. It'll like either be fine or you've hired like really idiotic people, and then you've like made it. Then you just need to stop making bad choices in your hiring process, basically. So yeah, that's just the real secret. You can actually trust your own team, and like you should focus on building a team you can trust.
But yeah, that's true. But you also went this startup path. You built a product, had an MVP, went to YC, then raised money.
Yep.
And then we see today companies with smaller teams or bootstrapping reaching certain levels. Would you do the same thing today?
Yeah, I think so. We didn't, the first 6 months we didn't raise. Like we started off planning to bootstrap. We just sort of defaulted into it. Like basically we just saved, my co-founder and I like just saved up so that we were like, okay, we can afford to spend a year. So I like had budgeted for like, okay, I can do a year of this thing. We'll need to get normal jobs again at the end of the year. This gives us like enough time to like really just focus completely on the business. I think what started happening was we just started talking about motivates us. And I think we concluded that, like, okay, if we can do, we're like, oh, let's just see if we can get into YC, because it looks like it'll be really fun. And it'll probably teach us quite a lot. And that kind of put us down the VC path. Know what you like, you basically either want to hardcore be bootstrapping or hardcore doing VC. I think if you start trying to do one and half the other, that's where you're going to screw up. So for example, if you're like, if you raise from like investors who aren't very good, for example, you're going to have a really rough time doing VC, because like now they're going to be like kind of conservative and they're going to push you on metrics, the wrong things, and now you're going to struggle to raise the next round, and all your focus is going to become fundraising. You end up in this really weak kind of spiral. So basically, like with VC, for example, like if you can fundraise from like the best investors, and you're able to take advantage of that and whatever, then like go nuts and go insanely hard and like try and you need to match your product ambition to what your investors are also going to want, because they're also like co-owners in your business with you. But what you don't want to do is be building like a business into like a tiny market, or like if you yourself don't actually want to try and build like $100 billion plus company or something, you're going to end up kind of conflicted with what your investors want you to do, which is going to make it harder to fundraise and stuff, because they're not going to feel like you're pushing hard enough. So it's like, are you kind of motivated by like building a business and having freedom and autonomy? There's also like, is there actually freedom in anything? But or are you actually motivated by like, I just want to go like totally nuts and see what happens? So I think that's more the decision I think about. So then next time around, like if I were doing this all over again, like this time at the moment at Posthog, going nuts is kind of the thing that motivates us. I'm like genuinely just quite curious about a couple of things. One is like, what happens if we just build all the software that a software team needs? And that's like 50 plus products. Like you're not supposed to do that. And we've been breaking this rule and it's been going really well. It goes better the more we break it. And the second thing is like, what happens if we don't drop caring about end users? And we keep doing, whilst others increase pricing, we can decrease it over time, and we'll just like not drop the growth engine. So I'm like, intellectually, I want to know what happens if we take those two things to the most extreme possible state. So like a VC back style thing, this fits really well with.
Yeah.
Whereas I think like, you know, if I was like forced to sell Posthog tomorrow or something, I'm like, okay, like it'd be fun to like get better at coding, for example. Like I'm pretty bad at it and I would love to be a little bit better. And I'm like, okay, I could see myself like
vibe coding,
trying to build something.
No.
But you know what I mean? Like I'd find that fun to work on, but like for the sake of like having a little bit of like just having kind of creative freedom and not stressing about it as much kind of thing. But I wouldn't have wanted to do that up front. Like I would have been too worried about like, I wanted to get this out of my system. I think with like, this is an adventure I want to go on and see what happens. It's kind of a bit surreal and weird, but it's been really entertaining. So I think it's just like,
that's actually, it's so interesting that you say this. We talked to quite a few people that said the exact same thing. So when they left their job, the main driver was to get this out of their system, to just try it out and to see what will happen. Can I do this? What's going to happen? But James, I have a small break segment. I think it's not going to be as good as I planned it to be, unfortunately. But this is a segment that is quite popular with our audience. I'm just going to have to take off some clothes here. This is called the hog measuring contest. Oh, sorry.
I bet you didn't expect this when you came to the podcast.
Neither this nor the singing.
So it's the hog measuring contest. Do you have a ruler by chance?
Do I have a ruler?
Yeah. We could just go for it. So what we usually do in this segment is we take a hedgehog here.
Every show. Yeah.
Every show we do this. We just take the ruler and we measure and compare the size of our hedgehog. That is. So I'm sitting. Are you? You're probably inches. So what are we? 8 inches for my hog. You could just ballpark the size of your hog if you.
I haven't. I have a whole bunch. I have like 6 of them, but.
Oh, I'm not. I knew I won't be disappointed in this segment.
Yeah, I feel like.
What's your largest one?
No, they're all tiny, like no bigger than like 2 or 3 inches. But the.
All right. So 7 inches. I kind of.
I don't know.
I could go on X and tweet that my hog's bigger than James's hog. But I would rather not do that right now.
Just one more question I have. I want to know. Your mission was to increase the number of successful products in the world. Is it still the same mission?
It's slightly reworded. It is to equip developers to build successful products. And so, yeah, it's a little bit more precise. But yeah, we basically like, can we basically give developers all the stuff they need?
And marketers, please, can we add that at some point?
Not for now. I think there's more.
I love it. Just blunt. No, nope. You don't get this one.
Yeah, we're not sure. It'll be interesting to see how much we try and automate a lot of these other roles as well. Like that's the thing that I'm unsure about, like how much this will happen. So for example, we're experimenting with like, okay, can we like automate the decision process around what to build next is one of the things we're thinking about, and like how we work with like IDEs, for example, like as in like, here are 3 features you might want to consider building based on like your usage data, your error data, your feedback.
Oh, that's very interesting.
Your support tickets and so on. So it's like, oh, we're kind of building a product manager by doing this. As in like, in the same way that like an AI IDE is also building, like Cursor is like, it's kind of a developer in a box.
Right.
But like a developer still uses the tool. It's just they're much quicker. In the same way, like perhaps a product manager looks at the approval flow and goes, oh, there's like, here are 10 ideas. I actually think these 3 would be really good. And like they will now go to a developer who will see the code change and then make it, for example. So yeah, it depends what gets automated away.
Will you have some overlap with linear in the future then and go towards that side of things, or?
I could see some, or maybe like, yeah, I could see integration more heavily there. Like we have one at the moment with like session recording. So you'd be like, oh, you can push session recording to create a linear ticket automatically. It's like a little integration we built. It's kind of cool. One of our customers asked for. But no, it'd be more like the actual, literally the product manager person. They're like, we're automating the work they do, not the like sort of ticket management kind of system or whatever. Like the decision making, I think, is the thing we could accelerate and go, hey.
I can see already a blog title, why being a product marketer is cool while using Posthog. I'm not gonna quit from this.
Sure, maybe maybe we should just push this thing ourselves, Sandra, because they don't care, obviously.
We'll do that for them. It doesn't matter. Because I was working in a startup, and my job was reading the whole data from Posthog that was incoming, and from there I was able to pull different strategies for our marketing. So,
did any of the other technical founders, they were technical founders, I guess, did they care about Posthog? Or was it just
they cared enough to set up the Posthog for me to care about Posthog.
Did you tell them to install it, or was it there already?
No, the person in engineering was the one who set up the Posthog for me.
Okay, yeah, that's interesting.
At least for marketing, when we are using Posthog, we have a whole picture of a user journey.
Yep.
From like the entering point, then his activity in the product, track the activity of the users, and then kind of build a strategy to get these exact same users to the product. So now I'm done. I've said what I had.
Yeah, I think I think there is some opportunity there, because a lot of the marketing tools historically are also like, they're all conversion based, but that's kind of where the story begins almost rather than where it ends. Yeah. And so it's like, well, like which users are good users? Like what do they actually look like? The ones that come in all the time, which bits they're using the most, where they're getting stuck. Like, for example, our marketing team do our docs because our marketing team is quite technical, and like they want to know where users are getting stuck and confused and lost or whatever, which you can do through, there are like data driven ways to do that stuff. Like you can look up like, where are people like half activating products then disappearing, for example, or whatever else it might be. There's probably like a lot of education there, I think, that might be needed first, as you say.
But James, you've almost made it to the end, and I have to say I'm quite surprised that you have later. I just have one last thing that I have to ask. So it's a different world versus 2020 when you founded Posthog. Quite different. A lot of things have happened. Elon Musk is president. Everyone's using AI. How are you planning to use AI in Posthog? Is that a part of your strategy right now, or are you just gonna ride it, or just hang tight with your current vision and not get tangled up in the hype with AI?
Yeah, I think at first we were worried about getting tangled up in hype. I think basically because we've seen like blockchain come and go, and I'm pretty glad we're having a similar debate. We're like, oh, we've got like a bunch of blockchain-y companies using us. Like, how hard do we go in this direction? So we were probably like on the more conservative side at the start. Now we're completely bullish, as in we're like, we 100% think this is critical to us, to the extent where we're working out like we want to have like a full-on IDE that we own that is completely integrated with our products, for example. So going like completely to the extreme end of the spectrum, I think is actually the right approach for us. Kind of our reasoning would be that like software engineering has just fundamentally, I think not all of software engineering has changed, but a huge chunk has totally shifted, because it turns out that AI is very effective at writing enough code at least to get you started on a product, or working on simplistic products today. But it doesn't feel like that much of a leap that it will be used to make changes on sophisticated products further down the line. That's probably already happening in a bunch of places.
So do you see it as the no-code movement a few years back, where it created a new market, sort of say, but it hasn't fundamentally shifted how coding works?
Yeah, I think so I don't think our priority is going to be helping. I think the starting point for us is more rational. So I think there's two ways we could basically play it. One is, okay, there's going to be a bunch of less technical people that are now coding. What are the implications of that? Which I think will be true. But I think the other thing that also will be true at the same time is engineers can go much further. Like an engineer using Cursor is going to be more productive than a less technical person using Cursor. So the engineer is going to be the one who's writing code. And I'm like, okay, can we... But I also think the same thing that Cursor has done to code is just going to happen with the other pieces of software that are used inside of an organization, like the CRM, the messaging product, whatever else. So we've basically been building something called Max AI. This is like a chat thing inside Posthog. And so the concept at the moment is like you can ask questions about user behavior and data and so on. It's pretty cool. Like, I think the difference is kind of like, it's sort of like how back in the day in Windows 95, you'd have to click Start, Program, File Explorer, C Drive, Games, whatever, to find something. Like, you had to like deal with these, you'd have to think about all these abstractions in the UX, the software or whatever, to get to the thing you actually, like, you're not, as a human, you're just like, I just want to play Doom. And so, but like, I need to remember to click Start.
Can I just type Doom? Yeah.
And then like, then it became a search space. Well, just type Doom and it'll appear, kind of thing. Yeah. And it feels like that for our stuff. It's like we can just bring it to you immediately from a chat box. And then I'm also like, we have loads of products. Like at Posthog, we use Salesforce today. I have never logged into our Salesforce instance, and I don't want to, because I know that like I'm not really going to know where stuff is. I'm like, half it's going to be broken. The data, I'm not going to quite get what I'm looking at, whatever. So I end up asking people internally, like, hey, how are we doing and whatever. Or people pull data out of it for me to look at in tools. And I'm like, actually, if we have this chat UX, we can apply that to every single piece of software that's being used. So you just have one UX to learn for everything. And the UX is basic. Like, you just type what you want and you get it. So we're trying to build like chat for all the software. I want to get the chat then into the IDE directly for developers, because that's the user group we have. And I'm like, well, whilst you're in the IDE, can you have a tab for like Posthog? And then you can just ask product questions. You can set up a messaging campaign to your users or whatever else you're interested in. So yeah, this is like, we're kind of full gas going this direction.
As we all know, you're a huge fan of Salesforce. This famous tweet on it. That sounds great. And it also sounds like a healthy approach to AI is to enhance the parts of the product that make sense and not just go, Posthog is going to be a chat app from now on. And you just have to chat with it, and the rest of it we're scrapping.
I think it will get to that point where it does feel like that. But it's like we're just like, we'll still need like the ability to show a graph, have filters and stuff. But it's like, you'll use chat to create the graph in the first place. You want to be able to still use like, okay, I can see which event's appearing, how it's filtered and so on. But like to edit the graph, I'm probably still in the chat. Like, hey, like how many users I get? Oh wait, exclude people from this country, or exclude like our own team, for example.
Making reading the data easier.
And like we ship this data warehouse product. So we pull in data from like Stripe, Postgres, whatever else, like a whole bunch of sources. There it's like especially valuable to have a simplistic chat, because like the implication of this is really cool. It's like a warehouse today is useful if you can write SQL. It's annoying if you can't, because you have to get someone internal to answer questions. Whereas I think the future is like, cool, I'm a salesperson. I want to use Posthog to be like, how is this customer using the product? And like so I think it will lead to every role having way more ability to get a grip on what's going on in their business. If we can pull this off. Not just engineers. So yeah, I still don't quite know if it means that like the ratio between these roles will change. I actually think potentially what will happen is maybe a software company still has a product manager, a designer, an engineer, and they have 8 people doing 8 roles, but they're generating 200 million run rate rather than like 2 million run rate between them.
They just get more efficient.
So every team might just be smaller in the same kind of ratio as before. I could also see happening.
That makes a lot of sense. Yeah. James? thank you so much for joining us today. It was a true honor, and really, besides all the jokes and everything, we're huge fans. It was absolutely great to finally catch you and to chat. I hope we can do it again sometime, maybe after you get to 100 million, which is, I guess, in a few months now from from this talk. Sandra, you want to take it away?
James, thank you so much for coming today. We marketers love Posthog, and we hope there's going to be, just kidding, that's it. But you can, thank you all for joining. Please make sure to subscribe to the channel. We have a bunch of videos for indie hackers, marketers. We have also Posthog videos probably. So thank you, everyone. James, thank you very much one more time, and enjoy your weekend.
Thank you very much, and I'm relieved this is over. No more singing. I was like, what other stuff we can bring out?
Wait, we have to sing as well. There is a song for the end.
Who's that?
I think we've tortured the man enough, Sandra. he just wants to go to the pub and have a few beers now.
Oh,
You got a startup, but no one's there. Get it, James? Oh, my coding, do users care? Launched on Product Hunt, got one upvote.
It was your mom.
But hey,
Hey, that's dope.
that's dope.
Building in
public, living the dream.
Living on public.
Red Bull and cheese.
Wow, that went on for some time.